One exercise that I think a lot of people can take is to look at industries outside of their own. So, you can look at the supplement industry and say, like, well, how can we stand out amongst all these other supplements? And if you're inside of the box, it's really hard to look at the box from the outside. So, what you kind of need to do is think about what other industries are doing and see what it is that you could adopt as well into your own industry. And that might not necessarily be in terms of marketing or branding if you want to stand out. Sometimes that might be just how you do business.
This is Right Media Group Chronicles, your shortcut to sharper ideas, smarter moves, and creative breakthroughs. Let's roll.
Welcome to today's episode. For those of you just joining the podcast, we are Right Media Group and specialize in helping marketing agencies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your agency business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. We have a very exciting guest today, Stephen Seward, founder and creative director of Four Quarters Agency. Stephen, would you mind to introduce yourself and what you do to the audience?
Hey everybody, my name is Steven Sweat, and like Yolanta said, I am the founder and creative director of Four Quarters Agency. We're a brand and design agency first, so usually what we're doing is helping people not only create their visual identities for their business, but we also support them with building their websites, helping their ongoing digital marketing efforts or marketing efforts, and just trying to help them think a little bit more creatively about how they connect and communicate with their customers.
So let's start with your story, Stephen. So, how did you first get started in branding and design?
Yeah, so I went to school for graphic design. I went to Florida Atlantic University in, of course, Florida. I went through the BFA program, which was the Bachelor's in Fine Arts program for graphic design. I was always inclined in some way, shape, or form to be in the creative industry. It was at one point between being a graphic designer, an architect, or a psychologist. One of those just was going to be the pocket that I fell in, if you will. Graphic design ended up being a little bit more liberating in my view compared to architecture. So I kind of took that route. And when I started going into graphic design, I realized that beyond just the design aspect, the creative, right? The element, the colors, the icons, the logos, there was an aspect of it that required communication with the client and understanding of the client. And that was predominantly branding, right? Understanding the purpose and drive that people may have to starting a business and finding a way to communicate that to their clients or customers. So that allowed me to kind of tap in a little bit to the desire that I had to be a psychologist in the past. So it kind of helped me fill both those roles of being a creative and also being a person that helped solve somebody's problem, which for branding, it's not always a matter of is your visual identity not right? Sometimes it's just that you don't really know what it is that you're trying to say. You don't know how to
Mhm.
position yourself in the market. So being able to help people understand how to build that presence, that positioning, and that purpose for themselves so that they can move forward with more intention kind of helped me realize that this was kind of the way to go.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that it's you also doing a part of psychology there as well. Because in regards to personal branding as well, because like you need to really speak to your clients' audiences, so they really feel resonation. So you playing with emotions in a bit. So psychology very much so resonates with that. So I'm glad you're filling out those two roles right now. So how did you come about founding your own agency? I mean, it's never an easy journey and it can be struggles as well along the way, but you've clearly made it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I started with freelancing. I mean, as most designers, I had a full-time job and I was doing graphic design for an in-house marketing team. I learned a lot about what it meant to be a digital marketer through, my collaboration with digital marketers in the past. I took courses also for digital marketing, not in school, outside of school, because I realized that there was a gap between my knowledge in design and branding and what marketers or digital marketers needed in order for us to be super efficient. And so that kind of took me down the road of learning a lot more and reading and really challenging myself. So at one point, I came across a couple of people who were needing graphic design services as a freelancer. I remember one day I actually sold a logo. This is while I was still in college. I sold a logo design and a website for $500. And at the time, I was actually surprised when the owner said, "Hey, we're just going to pay you for the logo. We're not going to pay you for the website." And I thought to myself, like, well, listen, we have a contract. And it was this piece of paper that basically said not enough. And at the time, I didn't realize that $500 was nowhere near enough money to do a website. It was ridiculously low. but I was just happy to
To
work
get a
on the
proper
project.
website, might I add to that as well? A proper
Exactly,
website,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, if anything, it's just going to be one page with just some information on it, but that's not enough. So my point being, there was a lot of things that I needed to learn, right? And I kind of figured out little by little what those things were. After having conversations with clients, I realized that I was really good at talking with clients and kind of understanding what their needs were. And in being part of marketing teams and marketing collaborations, I just realized that there was a lot of my potential that I wasn't really tapping into. And it was
Mm,
simply because I wasn't in charge. I wasn't able to be the one to kind of say, we're gonna try to do things that are more creative or more interesting or more daring. One day, through the many connections that I had, somebody connected me with the University of Rutgers, and I made a video animation for them. And that video animation was very small. It was a very tiny project. It wasn't meant to be a huge thing, but it really blew some other people away at Rutgers University, and they came to hire me for a much larger project. And that gave me the runway that I needed. I already had the mindset and the desire to be a business owner, but I didn't have the runway. And after that project, it kind of gave me what I needed. And for, 6 months or so, I said, I'm good to go. I can now actually take the risks that are necessary to be a business owner and go out there and do work. And I did.
I mean, I hear so many like business owners. Obviously, it's nice to have your own little per se baby to look after.
Yeah.
But then, especially people that live corporate that work, let's say, 8 hours a day. For your own agency, sometimes people end up working 16 hours a day. How do you find it for yourself personally? Because I found that you wear many hats in the industry as a business owner.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine who really helped me kind of separate, work life and personal life. I mean, there were a lot of times where we would be working together, and I would say at like 8 p.m., I'm still working, I'm still doing design work, and still doing this. And he really instilled in me the priority to take time for myself, because it really is important as a creative for you to just not be so engulfed with the creative work. But part of that also comes from being able to take the time away from work, right? If you're not having enough clients come down your pipeline, then you're always going to be concerned with where the next project is going to
Yeah,
come
so you
from, where the
can't
next
really
client
enjoy
is going to
yourself
come
when
from.
you're having that off time.
Exactly.
Yeah, of
Yeah, because then in your off time, you might not be designing, but now you're concerning yourself with where your next client is coming from.
course,
So
'cause that's your full income. Yeah.
So I think understanding your industry and understanding what clients are looking for and how to acquire them, building a system to acquire clients so that they can be those high-end clients that maybe you're looking for,
Hmm.
or maybe the funnel that kind of brings in those clients is just working nonstop,
On
makes it
automation.
a lot easier for you to take that time off at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Because being able to attract clients is not necessarily about doing a lot of hard work every single day. It's about being very precise about the type of work that you do, being very, sometimes just, being very lean about what is really effective and what's not effective to getting you those clients. And then just doing that or setting up the foundation for that
Hmm.
so that you can just make monthly adjustments to it, maybe quarterly adjustments to it, and you can improve upon that.
Hmm.
But yeah, there was a lot of balancing that I needed to do on my end. And as an owner and a founder, it is very difficult at first for you to, one, be the person doing all of the design work, and then at the same time having to be the person responsible for actually doing the client acquisition.
Yeah.
So I knew pretty early on that I needed to start outsourcing work, that I needed to have other people be responsible for things, even if it meant that I was going to take a financial hit for it.
Hmm.
I needed to be the one to bear that risk and try to pay or spend that money, because I knew that at the end of it, it was up to me and I was taking the risk of being able to find more clients to make the system more sustainable.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, Stephen, there as well, that you do need to take that time off. But then at the same time, you can't relax until you have that pipeline that's consistently full. No, I think a lot of
Exactly.
agency owners can definitely relate to that.
Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
have worked across e-commerce, wellness, and food. So what's been one of your favorite projects so far?
Yeah. So one of the most recent projects that I worked on that was pretty fun, we worked on a project called Protein Parlor. So it was a protein supplement company by a founder named Bibi. She's a nutritionist, and one of the things that she noticed in her weight loss journey was the importance of protein in the in supplement for women who are trying to lose weight. Not just women, but this was kind of like maybe her niche market was particularly women. That through brand strategy, we noticed that maybe that was the best audience for this. And we started kind of looking at all the different protein brands that were out there and what is it that kind of stuck out, right? And it's that one of the main things people look at when they go to a protein store or a store that sells supplements and they're looking at protein is that they're primarily drawn by the flavor. That's number one.
Mm,
And then the second thing is drawn by whether it has some sort of sugar or additives that make it unhealthy, right? So we already knew that we had a healthy protein. All of that information is on the back. It's usually not the first thing people see. So we knew that we needed to catch their attention primarily with flavor. Now, I kind of took a little bit of what was happening in the current market in protein as well, which is that I follow a lot of health content, and something that people do a lot of is create their own ice creams at home with protein being added to it. So I said, there's an opportunity where a lot of people are looking for the Ninja Creamy, which is the ice cream maker that is used at home.
mm.
What if instead we made a protein brand that we take all of these flavors, which are pretty synonymous, right? So I can say that it's a Cinnabon flavor, or I can say that it's a cinnamon swirl. And the idea is that we're trying to really imply these ice cream flavors. Because a lot of people, when they are going on a diet, one of the biggest challenges is I don't want to lose my sweets. I don't want to lose
Mhm.
the taste of all of the stuff that, I have a sweet tooth myself. Ice cream is my weakness. So I thought to myself, how can we make people really desire this protein and attach it to something that was already doing well? Because in protein and supplements and bodybuilding or even in weight loss, there's already so much competition. So you really need to think outside of the box about how you're going to get people to come to find out about your business or find out about your product. And in this case, we leveraged something from a completely different industry, which was the relevancy and the attention that was being given to the Ninja Creamy or the other devices that allow you to make at-home ice cream. And now, because we've created a protein ice cream supplement and we're trying to specialize or make it, that's our positioning, the connection between those two things becomes more apparent throughout all of the content that we create. So that was a pretty interesting project for us because it really allowed us to think deep into the insights of the industry
Yeah, and
and how
into
we
the
can be
consumer,
strategic.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. And even when we made the website, there were some things about like, when you look at the product collection page, it looks like the barrel, the buckets of ice cream when you go to a protein, like a not a protein, like when you go to an ice cream parlor. So they're side by side and you see the scoops, and that's very eye-catching when you go to an ice cream shop. So seeing it on the website was also just kind of adding to that idea. So we looked into a lot of ways of like, how can we really push this more and more so that it's just interesting for people.
Wow, I can see you're very passionate about this as well.
It was a very fun project. I mean, me and Bibi has talked pretty frequently. I enjoyed working with her, and in a lot of moments, whenever she needs help, I'm always a call away because I like to see my clients be successful as much as possible. And I know that it's important for small businesses to, not only try to get it right the first time, but to really have a partner on their side that they can reach out to, that they can talk to, and try to build a business and have that trust that that person's going to be there for you and they're not going to take advantage of you. It's only a matter of time before Protein Parlor does extremely, extremely well, and we'll be there with her along the entire path.
Wow, that's incredible to hear. I love that partnership you have together with her. I have to say, personally, I'm very much so into the whole protein world as well. And it's very interesting because you've taken kind of a route away from the like bars into like the ice cream section, which personally for somebody who's very much like into the gyms and into the protein, I haven't seen a protein ice cream out there.
Yeah,
So for me, it's a very unique angle. It's like you took the brand, you're like, it's gonna be hard to stand out in this competition. So let me just move it along this way and take this different angle. So absolutely
yeah.
incredible. I love it.
It was an opportunity also because this was kind of confirmation that we were going in the right direction. Is that ever since I worked on that project, I started actually seeing ice cream, like actual ready-made ice cream, just like Haagen-Dazs containers,
Oh, don't talk
where
about
they
Haagen
would
Dazs.
where they would have protein already inside of it. So it would be a protein ice cream. And I said, oh, we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's, granted, of course, people want to put protein in everything, right?
Mm,
Protein is the new thing that everybody wants everywhere. Sometimes it was matcha, sometimes it was ashwagandha, sometimes
yeah.
whatever it may be. We passed the mushroom stage, now we're in protein. But in this case, I started noticing that some businesses were being built on the idea of creating a protein ice cream. And the benefit of what we were making is that, yeah, you can make it into an ice cream if you like, or you can just have a protein shake, right? You can just make it into a protein shake and it's going to be delicious. I mean, by far, it was one of the most delicious protein shakes that we've ever had. When we got that first shipment at our house, the first thing I did was call Beef and say, "These are amazing. I know I've been working on these
It's
this
great to
entire
see the
time and I
taste
barely ever
matches
had."
the flavor, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's really
That
important. I
makes it
mean,
easy for you
sometimes
to
you
market that product and brand that product as well.
or it's very easy to get tired of tasting vanilla every single time,
Yeah.
but this vanilla was actually really, really good, you
Wow.
know?
What is it called again?
Protein Parlor. You can find it
Protein
on,
Parlor. I might check them out.
yeah, you'll find it at proteinparlor.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. So, what do you think really makes a brand stand out in 2025? Because it's very crowded out there with businesses. I mean, let's be honest. How do you stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I could do the cliche part and say that it's all really about storytelling, but it's just about really being different. And, one exercise that I think a lot of people can take is to look at industries outside of their own. So, you can look at the supplement industry and say, like, well, how can we stand out amongst all these other supplements? And if you're inside of the box, it's really hard to look at the box from the outside. So, what you kind of need to do is think about what other industries are doing and see what it is that you could adopt as well into your own industry. And that might not necessarily be in terms of marketing or branding if you want to stand out. Sometimes that might be just how you do business, right? The way in which you charge money, the price ladder or the value ladder that you may have for your business that allows you to maybe generate more sales or a higher average cost. What is it? Average customer value every time that they make a purchase. You may be able to do that as well. But when it comes to branding and marketing, it's just really being different and really being yourself. I mean, Gary Vee, anybody else will tell you right now is that social media is king. You have to be making content. And the reason why is because the content is something that you can just do while you're doing the work. I think people overthink the content sometimes
I think you're right
because
about that.
they're so caught up with I need to make unique and viral content. But sometimes just being very transparent about what it is that you do and having a system on what your content pillars are and what kind of content you want to be putting out there, that might be just as good. The other part of that is just because you want to do content doesn't mean that you need to be doing videos on social media. There are many different ways to do videos, but I would task people to go on social media and try to find content that they have never seen in the past. I mean, sometimes it's the pacing, sometimes it's the music, sometimes it's how it's set visually. Rely on designers, rely on
Mhm.
brand strategists and marketing people to kind of come in, give you a consultation of what your business is already doing, and give you that foundation. Right? The foundation is the first step. Once you get to the point where you're way past the foundation, you don't, it's way past the point of you need to concern yourself with whether it's effective or not. Being clear and concise about what it is that you do, who you do it for, and how you do it is one of the most important things when it comes to promoting your business. And this might be more specifically like, service-based businesses that I think of. But when it comes to product-based businesses, it's just like, what is unexpected? What are people not expecting from what I am doing, right? One example is Graza, right? So Graza, the olive oil brand, decided to make squeeze bottles for olive oil when usually olive oil was either inside some ceramic container or a glass container. And what do people do when they use those containers? A lot of times they might take the cap off, they pour some olive oil to put the cap back on, and it drips a little bit of olive oil over the bottle. And you have to clean the bottle, and you're just like, oh my God, this is annoying. And sometimes, even when you're actually pouring the olive oil, maybe you pour more than you actually intended to. The squeeze bottle allowed you to have more control. But it was also something that was reminiscent of kitchens inside commercial restaurants, right? They were using squeeze bottles. So it was a different form factor inside the store and on the shelf that made people pay attention to it because it was so different. What they did after that is that they created replenishment bottles, right? These containers that look like soda cans that you crack open just like a soda can so that you can refill your container.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even know
But
that.
because it looks but because it looks like a soda can, the first thing people are gonna think is like, "Is that olive oil in a soda can?"
Yeah.
And it catches your attention, and there's something to be said about that. That's interesting, right? So, trying to think about how many people's attention you can catch with something like that, I mean, in that case, you're catching not only the attention of people who maybe are looking at that can and saying, "Design-wise, that's very interesting," but also the people who are interested in reducing their waste.
Mm.
You don't need to buy that glass
Fulfilling.
container
Yeah.
over and over and over again. Now you have this can that you're using the squeeze bottle. The squeeze bottle is not getting thrown out, it's just getting reused.
Yeah, I think
So
you're right.
definitely
Especially
many,
now, I think consumers are very sustainability aware, aren't they? So they want to make
yeah,
sure the products, where it comes from. They want to know the fund or make sure they care about the environment as well. It's very information is very available now, and it could be a hassle for business owners that don't actually like to put themselves out there. Because if you're growing a business, unfortunately, you have to. Because people
yeah.
buy from people. They want to know what's the face of the business.
Finding these unique little insights about your business, your customer, and how to make things easier for them goes a very long way. It's just because you're dedicated to being excellent and to doing things in a way that are unexpected. You'll see it and you'll be like, wow, I've never seen something like that in the past. And you might not buy it. You might possibly not buy it because it's not even your product, but somebody will remember you because of the fact that they saw it.
So, when clients come to you, what would you say is the biggest branding mistake they usually make?
They'll say, "Well, it's for everybody. Everybody will be able to buy from my product." I mean, that's a cliche in the branding space. I don't know if that's like the most cliche thing, but it really is. And I think it's the one thing where like anytime I hear it, I know that there's like an impact that can really be made in my client's life because this next piece of information is going to truly help them. And it's that if you do not know who your target audience is, you will have a very hard time fixing their problems, answering their questions, and thinking the way that they will think. You can't communicate or connect to somebody in that way because you just believe that everybody is the person that you're trying to, communicate to. So somebody who's trying to sell bossa nova tickets to a music event is probably not trying to connect with people who are into dubstep music. So if you try to promote bossa nova music to somebody who is interested in dubstep, it might not connect. And the challenge with that becomes is that one, you become a frustrated business owner, not understanding why your business and your marketing is not working. But at the same time, you're spending your ad spend or your efforts in trying to connect with people who have no interest in buying from you whatsoever. So you can be a lot more effective when you know your position within a market and you know who your customer is and what it is that they're looking for. And you can think about the way that and you can think the way that they think. This requires a lot of research, a lot of understanding within yourself. But one really interesting way to do this is something called the task gap and opportunities map, which is if a customer that you have, which is your target audience, what are their tasks from the moment that they wake up in the day all the way to the moment that they go to sleep? What are everything that they do? In this case, you might think to yourself, a yoga studio owner, right? They wake up early in the morning because yoga classes are really early. They probably don't have any time to get anything to eat because they have a class right after. Maybe they're trying to fill to get something really quick. Then they take the yoga class. What do they do after the yoga class? Are they scheduling another class? Are they doing accounting? Are they going to take a break? Are th- so once you start filling up all of those tasks,
Uh,
you think about the gap. The gap is what is one thing that is causing them any sort of pain or challenge in their life, right? In the case, this person is not having breakfast, even though they want to when they wake up. So now the opportunity becomes how can we get this person to have breakfast before their morning class or just after their morning class. Right? This might be in the form of delivery. This might be in the form of notification. It might be in the form of a meal plan, automated deliveries. So we start thinking about the different ways that we can now solve that challenge or that gap in the customer's life. Once you know who the customer is, you can actually think about all the tasks and all the things that they have to do,
it
and
becomes
it
really
makes it
easy.
easier for you to find the gaps and then create the opportunity.
Mhm.
But if your customer is everybody, well, that person might wake up and they might go to the yoga studio, or they might go to Pilates, or they might go to the gym, or they might not even work out at all. Maybe they just have breakfast at home and just watch TV instead. You don't know. And it makes it very difficult for you to answer the questions that they have and for you to be the service provider or the answer to whatever it is that they're trying to solve.
Once again, being personalized with the consumer, because nowadays you got to have that in order to stand out, in order for them to go for your product. The business really has to speak to the consumer. And in this
Yeah.
case, once you have your niche or your ICP, you know exactly who to target, you know their daily routine. I do have to ask though, how can somebody look at, like this is let's say, for example, this is my ideal client. How can I find out what they're doing day to day? Do you use AI to help with that? Or your clients?
Sometimes I'll use AI. Sometimes I'll use AI because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to gather more information. Surveys help. If you already have a lot of customers that are buying from you previously, then that's a gold mine, right? Getting people to kind of fill out surveys to kind of give you some of that extra information, talking to people that you know that may have somebody who does this, getting information from them. But generally, a lot of times I might use AI as well. I'll ask them to create a customer profile. But here's the important part is that you can't just take what AI gives you. You actually have to ask AI more questions. You have to try to get very specific about what it is that it does or what is that this person does. Try to create that personal that profile so it can be more unique. If you just say, give me a customer profile of yoga studio owner, then it's going to give you something that's generic. It'll be maybe enough as a jumping off point for you. But if you really want to get down to what you have to do or what it is that those people go through on a day to day basis, you have to continue asking more questions. And sometimes you have to look outside of ChatGPT. I think it's helpful if one thing that you can do, I mean, Reddit is huge right now. I look at Reddit for a lot of questions, a lot of answers, because I'm surprised at just how many people really go on there to share their experiences that they go through on a day-to-day basis. And it's really helpful for you to find, information that you can then put into ChatGPT or into your AI program to kind of filter through all of that and find out what are people saying about this topic, right? What is the answer? So you might look into, running a yoga studio as a Reddit, right? A Reddit thread. And you might have AI look at that Reddit thread, read through it, understand what people's concerns are, and say, what are the primary three pain points that people have running a yoga studio,
Yeah.
right? Summarize that for me. And then when they summarize it, you'll be able to know these are the three things. All right. If those are the three things that this Reddit is talking about, I'm going to specifically study and look into these three things, these three topics, and I'm going to try to answer them and get as much information as possible. The more you do that, the more you understand your customer and kind of what they're going through.
Because it's actually
So
taking
yeah,
real
AI is a
data from
huge.
Reddit, from real people. You've told it, go to this exact page or whatever, and then find this information for me, like make it more edible for me in summary rather than going through
Yeah,
everything, spending hours. So I understand you using it as a tool rather than just letting it do its own thing.
absolutely. Exactly.
So
It's
moving
a
on.
huge time saver as a business owner for me as especially,
Yeah.
if I'm trying to save time at any moment that I can. So, sometimes it allows me to create hypothesis. And if I have a client and I'll communicate all of the information that I had with that client, and it's their responsibility to kind of confirm or deny any of the things that I learned, right? They might say, hey, that's not what we found. That's not the information that we found in our marketing or what it is that we're doing. We actually believe A, B, and C, but you're starting the conversation with data, right? And that is a good jumping off point for you to come from because then it's your job to now ask questions of the client to get more clarity. Clarity is the most important thing in any engagement with a client. And it's not fair to say that the only person who has any form of clarity is the brand designer, the brand strategist, the marketing director. That's not the case. The client has just as much information that is valuable to you in that engagement.
Amazing there. So, in regards to your growth for your agency right now, what would you say is been the best in bringing in new clients and what's been the toughest part about it as well?
Yeah, I mean, the toughest part is being able to find high quality talent that you can pay and kind of just not concern yourself with the level of work that they're providing. I've worked with interns, I've worked with junior designers, I've worked with mid-level designers, I've worked with videographers, and everybody does a pretty good job in some things, but not in everything. And I think that that has been a really tough challenge because when you start getting clients, you are making a promise that the work that you deliver is going to be top-notch work. So one of the ways to kind of get clients that's been successful for me is really a lot of networking, meeting new people, learning about their business. A lot of times I connect people just simply because their business makes sense for somebody else, right? Like, hey, you know, I want to know more about your business. I do this a lot through like the Chamber of Commerce. Is well, I'll have a conversation with somebody who's a business owner, and I'm just trying to figure out what it is that their business does. I'm not interested in whether it'll serve my business. I'm not interested necessarily in whether my branding services or design services are going to help them. I'm just concerned more so with what it is that they're trying to build because I'm trying to be curious as a business owner to understand what it is that they're going through. That helps me in my business as I understand and gauge what's going on around. So I do that because I can connect them to anybody that I need to connect them to, and that's valuable to those people as in the efforts of building a relationship. But then also there might be something that I can actually assist them with, where I might say, "Hey, listen, you mentioned this, and this was actually something that we had worked on in the past. This is what we found out. Sometimes you're providing free value, right? You're answering certain questions, you're giving advice, you're telling them, I would consider looking into this. And they might do so. They might come to you and have a conversation, and actually you can actually give a proposal, and they might not. But at the end of the day, you've built a relationship with somebody who's going to remember the fact that you were there and supported them in a moment when, well, they were going through a challenge that they didn't necessarily know how to answer it, and you didn't necessarily ask for anything in return. You were just there for them when you needed to.
I think we're now in a world where everyone's just pitching their service, and it's kind of frustrating, you know. LinkedIn, like there's so many messages, emails. That's why so many like important emails get missed amongst all the spams.
Exactly.
This is scary now. So in now we're in the age is you got to build a relationship with somebody because otherwise, you know, you'll just be another person trying to pitch something.
Yeah, take the extra time, I mean, to really research somebody. I mean, and you don't even do this just if you're a business owner. I mean, if you're trying to find a job nowadays, AI is also scrubbing through your resume and through your application and denying you before anybody's actually taken a look at your job application. So even when you're trying to get a job, it's the same thing as trying to get a client now, where you would really have to do that extra level of
Yes.
research to try to learn who somebody is. And when you reach out to them and try to connect with them, it's because it's the right connection, not just any connection. It's not to say that cold emailing, social media advertising, doing ads on social media. It's not to say that none of that stuff can work. I've seen it work for people. I think that what I would say to people who are trying to grow a branding business or a marketing business is that if you're trying to market your business through social media ads or cold emailing, have a service and or product that is repeatable that you're trying to reach out to people, as opposed to just saying, hey, I want to talk to you about my business. Your business is a thing, and it's fine. It's something that maybe people might be interested in, but they're much more interested in products, services, and programs. And that is the thing that you want to really communicate to people if you are gonna go and market to them, because that's actually something that you can iterate upon and change and benefit and say, nobody really budged on this offer or this product or this service that I offered to somebody. But if I just went to somebody and say, hey, we're a branding agency and we would love to talk to you about your branding, your identity, your design. I mean, I'm a new vendor, maybe. I'm getting somebody to maybe start thinking about rebranding their business. I mean, I'd have to catch them at the moment that they actually want to do a rebrand. That is highly unlikely, you know. But if I maybe come with a workshop to somebody who is trying to refine their branding skills, right, as a brand manager or as a digital marketer or as a graphic designer in a business, that might be something that's more beneficial, right? It's kind of like a way for you to get in. So finding, let's say, a senior graphic designer or a graphic designer within a much larger company that has, a couple of people above him might be a little bit of a more interesting way to build a connection and had advocacy, kind of backing you when you're trying to communicate with that business, as opposed to going straight to a creative director that has plenty of emails that they get every single day where they go, not interested, delete, no, no, thank you, so on and so forth. So be more intentional about the type of connections that you make with people. Really research who they are, what they're interested in, and put that in the email. I mean, right now, your email has to sound human, right? Sure, it has to be clear, it has to be concise, it has to be very to the point, but at the same time, it has to stand out. And right now, in the age of AI, the way that you do that is by sounding more human, right? Really, like, be that glitch in the matrix.
So to summarize, obviously, in order for cold outreach to work with clients, you really have to offer that free value in order for them to be slightly even interested.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be free value, but it has to be incentive in some
Mm.
way, shape, or form. You don't have to discount all of your services, but why else would I, make a decision now on something if I can make the same decision 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, a year later, right? You have to provide some sort of incentive as to why now is the best time to do that. And there are many different ways to do that. You don't necessarily have to provide something for free. You can maybe charge exactly the same thing, but provide maybe a little bit more premium access, right? Provide another freebie or an added value to that thing if they sign up sooner rather than later. Maybe it's a matter of urgency. We're only taking so many people for this workshop, whatever it may be. That is more incentive for people to sign on. So just think about what the incentives are. Be very clear about what the incentives are, as opposed to simply just reaching out to somebody and saying, "I got a business and I'd love to do it with you." That doesn't make sense.
What has worked for you in regards to cold outreach?
Cold outreach has not worked out for me too much. I think what's really worked out for me, like I mentioned, is a lot of networking, meeting people out in the regular old cafes. I'm a coffee drinker. I love drinking coffee all the time. And I'm surprised all the time when I see people who go to a coffee shop and they have their laptop there And eventually they're reading a book and I say, okay, I'm going to remember this book. Keep this, this is a good key thing to remember. The other day I had a conversation with somebody who was reading Ray Dalio's The Changing World Order, that book. And I saw him reading it for a couple of weeks now. And then one day I saw him with a completely different book. So I assumed he was done with that book. And I asked him, hey, how was that book that you were reading? I've heard a lot about it, but I've never gotten a chance to read it myself. And we started talking about that. Through talking about that, it kind of allowed us to build a connection. And that was something that was beneficial not only for him, because now I got an opportunity to really explain what it is that I do,
Mm,
but I also got to learn a little bit more about what it is that he does, all because I paid attention. So
mm,
paying attention is important, and that really helps in terms when you're doing networking in person. As far as cold emailing or any sort of other stuff that I've done, it really just helps if you are very particular about who it is that you're reaching out to. I think cold emailing is effective, but I am at the point where I'm questioning whether it's also just as efficient to look into the people you're trying to reach out to and really try to garner a connection with them. Just because they don't reply on the first email doesn't mean they don't want to, have a conversation with you. But if you go in there and say, I have something to offer you, then it might not necessarily be the right way to go about it. You probably might be better off just saying, hey, you like some of the things that I like. I'm interested in the industry that you're in. I would love to build a relationship with you.
mhm.
Would you love to have a conversation through Zoom, or would you like to grab coffee if you're in the same city? And that can be pretty beneficial.
So would you say it's harder to win new clients or keep them long term?
Wow.
I'm not going easy on you.
No, that's a good question. I've never had anybody ask me that. I think it's harder to get new clients
Mhm.
because it's much harder for them to trust you in the onset. But you have a very huge undertaking after you've gained that client, and it's to make sure that they're happy at the end after you started working with them. That requires you to stick to your word. That requires you to have excellent customer service, to be there for them when things are not working out, right? To really advocate for them. It requires you to be exceptional, to be communicative, to be professional. So doing all of those things, yeah, it's a lot of work, but you've already started talking with the person. So I would have to say finding a client
Mm.
is probably a lot
It's
harder
building that
than
relationship.
maintaining.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
No, fair
then
enough.
have them build, because we're used to building relationships with people. I mean, if we have a client that only works with us for 3 months, that doesn't mean that they won't work with us for at a later point. It might just be that at this moment they only needed us for 3 months. But it's important to really check in with them regularly, the same way that you would with a friend, right? You really need to make sure and make them feel like not only you care about them, their career and what they're doing, but you also care about their business. And just staying at top of mind is a way for you to make sure that you keep that client long term. They might not be paying you every single month,
Mhm.
but they're thinking about you every single month. Every time you maybe post something on LinkedIn or Instagram, they give you that little check mark or that
Yeah.
thumbs up, and you know that they're watching
Especially
and
if you
that
had a
they
good
care
good
about
ending, they had a positive experience
you.
with
Yeah,
you. I'm sure they'll
absolutely.
have a time in their business where they'll be like, I need to go back to Steven. He was great. I've had all
Yeah.
these other people and they just let me down.
Yeah, and I'll say also that it's also kind of like a flywheel. The more happy customers you have, the more customers you can get because they're actually thrilled to promote your business to everybody else. I have one of those clients that we built a pitch deck for, and we made her very, very happy with the way that the process works because, again, we helped her understand her target audience. We helped her get through her why and really think about her business in a different way. And it was transformative for how she thought about her business and her consulting business. So ever since then, anytime that she's had an opportunity to plug me in and connect me with somebody, she does it with so much excitement that even I feel it. And it's
Yeah,
just,
no, that's
sometimes you
sweet.
almost cry. Exactly.
So what would you say has been the most challenge to you as a founder in your years of owning the agency? What's pushed you the most? You found the most challenging, shall we say?
Understanding your customer and kind of what it is that they're looking for or what is that they want. I mean, businesses have many different ways of finding things in a much more affordable fashion, especially now within the age of AI. I mean, so many people don't necessarily need AI for every little thing. So you really have to specialize. And I don't mean specialize in terms of picking a niche, but you need to specialize in the sense that like the things that are what we call table stakes, right? The things that just about anybody should be able to do is no longer going to be the driving factor for somebody working for you or working with you. I mean, so finding a client that is going to need some graphic design tasks or going to, that you're going to offload some work from their plate and you're going to do just regular, production work is not going to be something that's going to differentiate you. You really have to understand the industry and help answer questions for them that they previously could not answer themselves.
Mhm.
So having some sort of expertise in an industry allows you to, one, charge a lot more where you maybe have a lot more of a runway when you have a business. Because now you're not just coming in as a service provider, you're coming in as a service provider and also a consultant that is opening up the client's eyes to new problems that they have not seen previously. But knowing what those things are is difficult. It's not easy to understand what every business is doing. And a lot of businesses don't want to just get on a phone call with you and answer those questions.
Yeah.
So you really have to be strategic about understanding who your client or customer is before you've even had a conversation with them. This is a harder undertaking when you're starting than it is when you've already started and have all of that expertise
Sometimes it's
because you
good to have
have the
another set
data.
of fresh pair of eyes, so we say, on the business.
Yeah, exactly. Having a fresh pair of eyes to kind of on the business and give you feedback that maybe you didn't expect is super helpful. And that requires you to do research as well because, prior to any client meeting that I have, I do my best to research the business, what it is that they're doing, are they offering anything new to customers? And then when we have that meeting, I say, I looked into your business, I found X, Y, and Z, and I just wanted to ask you what that was about, what it is that you're, doing there. And they might even be surprised at like, wow, this person really did their research. And they'll find that very comforting because, I'm being very thorough in how I understand and how I look into their business and think about the work that they do. So that's helpful as well.
So, Stephen, in regards to growth for your agency, what is your plan for the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, 6 to 12 months. Well, we're looking to add on some more branding projects. We've kind of specialized a lot in helping people with graphic design services generally. And although branding is like a long-term process that requires a lot of graphic design, we're really trying to focus on specifically working on branding projects for businesses, doing more full suite brand rebrands. So in order for us to do that, we're going to start building a workshop. And this workshop is going to be a multi-day workshop where people can work with us to answer their most pressing questions about the business that they're trying to build. And through that, they'll get the answers that they want if they're at the starting phase of their project or if they're somewhere in the middle that they're trying to really reestablish what it is that works and what it is that doesn't work so that they can get the expertise and the answers that they're looking for. That will be something that we'll be offering very soon. And once we do that, it'll do a couple of things for us. I'll be upfront and say that it'll, one, create a pipeline of customers that, one, have gotten the answers that they need for their business, but can also know that they can rely on us for design services because now we've gotten an opportunity to really speak to them and what it is that we specialize in and why it is that we're special or specialize in the services that we offer. So that's one thing. The second thing is to really start building our team into having more people who are really good at the work that they do, designers that are not just people who are subcontracted, but people who are partners of the business
Mhm.
and who are really devoted to its growth, loyal to the growth of the company, and want to try to do amazing work, right?
Yeah.
Being an in-house designer can be very interesting. It can come with a lot of challenges, but being in an agency, you really have your own accountability, your own responsibility, and a lot of opportunity, at least in my business, where I want you to be at the seat of the table having conversations about what it is that we can do to be unique. And everybody, it's an open door policy. So any ideas are always at any point welcome. So growing our talent pool and growing a webinar that helps people understand how they can help brand their business in the starting stages and finding people who are maybe a little bit more later on in the process of their business so that we can help them more intently with their overall brand rebrand.
That sounds absolutely incredible, Stephen. I hope it all goes well for you because it sounds great. I hope the webinar is successful, and it gets a lot of traffic.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, if people wanted to connect with you, Stephen, where could they find you?
Yeah. So if people wanted to find me, the best way is to go to www.4quarters.agency. That's 4quarters.agency, or they can email me at steven@4quarters.agency. I also have a social media account, which is It's Steven Swed. They can reach out to me there, and we're there to answer any questions that they have and help them along their path in their business.
Thank you very much, Stephen. It's been a pleasure having you on this podcast.
Thank you, Jolanta.